I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I play with that same emotion. Sometimes they get the best of me, and it doesn't work to my favor. I'm gonna live with that, because it works in my favor to the good. As my resume speaks and this team resume speaks, more so than it doesn't. And so I'm never going to change who I am. I'm going to approach the game the same way that I always do. And, like I said, we'll continue to move forward. Or did I ruin it, or did I force Kevin to leave? At the end of the day, as I've said before, whatever Kevin decides to do, whatever Clay decides to do, whatever who decides to do, we had great years together, and I support everybody wholeheartedly, 100%. As a man, as a human being, you got the right to do what you want to do with your life, and so I'll never question that.
What? Trouble in paradise, you say? The most talented team of all time struggling because of internal issues? The team with Draymond Green, who will say anything that's on his mind? And Kevin Durant, that cares about the opinions of people so much that he argues with 15-year-old kids online? That's the team that's now having problems in the locker room? No way. So the story goes that Draymond Green messed up a play. He took the ball down court when it really should have been Kevin Durant. And he was trying to make the right play. He actually did have some options. He just turned the ball over. And then Kevin Durant gets angry. The argument spills into the huddle. DeMarcus Cousins, out of all people, plays peacemaker. They lose the game, and then that argument spills into the locker room, and it results in Draymond Green being suspended. And then after that suspension game, Kevin Durant is still mad in the press conference. And the first thing I thought about the situation was that there's no way a turnover in a meaningless regular season game against the Clippers with, 2 starters out, Steph Curry and DeMarcus Cousins, there's no way a loss like that rattled them so much that they had an argument this bad that resulted in Draymond Green being suspended. That to me sounds like underlying issues. Now, I'm not going to sit here and lie like I knew they had internal problems. I don't claim to have sources, but you can find many examples of me in videos and on Twitter predicting the end of the Golden State dynasty after this year. I have thought for some time now that Kevin Durant is gone, and yes, when he does jet this summer, I do want a cookie for being right. And the reason I've thought Kevin Durant was always leaving Golden State, part of it had to do with KD himself, but a lot of it was just looking at the history of super teams and how they fall apart pretty much prematurely. And when you look at all the modern ones, there's always something that happens. There's just something that happens that you don't see coming, and it stops that super team from reaching its full potential. So with the Warriors, what have we been expecting their potential to be? We look at Kevin Durant and we look at Curry, and they're the oldest on the team, right? I think they are both 30, and then everyone else is younger. And we look at that and say, if they could just keep that core together and surround them with whoever, they could win championships hypothetically for another, 4 or 5 years? That's the window, and they could win multiple championships or all of them inside that window. But then just look at the most recent super teams. They never reached that fairy tale status. The Celtics got hammered by injuries and then ego that eventually broke them up. Miami was dealing with some injuries, and then LeBron had his own personal agenda, so he left. And then Cleveland had a big three when they got together. Injuries took them out that first year. Golden State appeared. And then, probably ego played a bit in them splitting up as well. And also terrible management. So with Golden State, before this whole incident happened with Draymond Green and KD, I always looked at Kevin Durant and I thought, he knows that this whole basketball utopia idea he had in his head going to Golden State, he knows for a fact that's not good for his career in the long run. Because from listening to him talk, that is the idea that he had. That he'd go to this great city, he'd go play on a basketball team with teammates that he loved, this entire team and organization that he loves, and then he'd play basketball in its purest form, because rarely ever would he be challenged on a squad like this. Think about it. Ever since he joined them in 2016, it's really never been about who their opponent is. It's just been about, can you go out there with these amazing teammates and execute beautiful basketball? That's all it's been in Golden State. If nobody on the team is hurt, then there's really no adversity. And with that thought pattern, it does seem like it would make sense to never leave, right? I mean, let's be real. As long as him, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson are on the team, they can probably find enough pieces to always be championship contenders. And so you would think he would just take whatever millions of dollars he had to stay there, whether it was a cut or whether he's actually being paid properly. You could just stay and make this work and you can be a contender for the rest of your career probably. But that's not about to happen because he said himself recently that this summer he wants a massive deal. He wants a massive amount of money. So that means I know Golden State probably has him as priority number one over anybody, and they would want to keep him. So whatever they have to do to this roster and this super team to make him stay, that's what would happen. So we can pretty much already say that this is the last year of the Golden State super team, and it's going to happen because of personal agendas. KD is just simply no longer willing to take a pay cut. And that lines up with what we heard Draymond Green saying about bringing up his free agency and making this season about himself and having one foot in the door and one foot out. That's the part that has had Draymond obviously pissed with him before this whole incident happened, because he senses that, yeah, this is about to end because of a personal agenda. Just like I said, this whole thing with super teams winning championships for years and years and nobody can ever stop them, for one reason or another, it never reaches fairy tale status. Because let's be honest, Golden State will probably still three-peat this year, but a three-peat, that's not the flat-out potential we saw in this team. We saw more than a three-peat. We're looking at them like they could do things we haven't seen since the 60s. But that's just a thing. Kevin Durant knows that nobody's going to look at his 3 championships in Golden State. Nobody's going to look at this three-peat and respect it. Well, they're not going to respect it fully, I should say. I think there is something to be said because people have made this big deal out of super teams and the players that are normally a part of the big 3. People have always made a big deal out of a player that was really good on one team, but then he comes to this super team and he's not as good anymore. But there is something to be said about the fact that Kevin Durant goes to the 2016 Warriors and for the last 2 years becomes their best player in the NBA Finals. He didn't just go there and he wasn't just sitting and being carried and along for the ride. He's played a big part in their success. But he knows that there's more left to his career, and that's why you see him with the burner accounts, and that's why you see him arguing with younger kids in his DMs about his move, because he's insecure about it. That's just what it is. Think about it. You haven't heard one peep from DeMarcus Cousins since he got there. He hasn't started playing yet, but we've all seen the video where the guy in the crowd was screaming at him about ruining the NBA, and Cousins was looking at him like he just did not give any fucks in the world. That look on his face, that's the look of a man that truly does not care what anybody thinks about him. KD, on the other hand, this gets to him. This whole thing that's been going on for the last 2 years, this hate movement that hasn't lost steam, it gets to him. And I think that, combined with the fact that he does want a massive payday, also combined with the new news that you got Draymond Green talking shit to him about his decisions with his own contract, those for me make it a sure thing that he will be leaving Golden State whether they win or lose. If they lose this year, he's definitely leaving. If something happens somehow and DeMarcus Cousins doesn't fit and they lose, he is 100% gone. But I think he's going anyways. I think he's going into the next chapter of his NBA career. Because to truly gain people's respect and be ranked properly like a player like him should be, I think he has to do the same thing other greats did. Mainly the same thing LeBron did after he left the Heat. He went and completed a part of his career that was really, his career just wouldn't have been the same without winning in Cleveland. Kevin Durant doesn't have that same connection to OKC. He doesn't really necessarily have to go back there. But for the next part of his career, he does really need to go to a team where it's not just all laid out already. Going to Golden State, you don't have to take up any leadership roles. You have leadership there. You got Curry, you got Draymond Green, everything is laid out. You just come and play amazing basketball and we win every year. I think he's got to go to a team that's just not over the top talented over everybody, and one where he shoulders more of the responsibility. Because I'll tell you, a year when Kevin Durant was really favorable to everybody was 2014. The year that he won MVP and Russell Westbrook was in and out with injuries. When Russell Westbrook went out, Kevin Durant did absolutely everything. That was one of those years where he was just all around. He wasn't just looked at as a scorer, he was literally all around that year. And if he had been able to win a championship that season, or even in 2016, one of those rings would have been worth more than however many he could possibly win with the Warriors. So then that begs the question, well, where could he go where his championships are actually going to mean more than the Warriors? I mean, pretty much anywhere. But I asked that question because my suspicion has been that he's going to go to the Lakers. Him and LeBron are good friends. His mother just... in a really timely manner said she loves LeBron and Magic Johnson. It's Los Angeles, and now that they have LeBron James there, it's a very appealing place again. And then that brings up a question. I would love to hear your answers in the comments. Would he get respect for going to win championships with LeBron James in LA? Because it's not the Warriors. If you go to the Lakers, that is nothing like the Warriors. There's no big three. There's not all-time shooters everywhere. Yes, you are probably the 2 best players in the league, But if it's you and him, and then role players everywhere else, that's still respected, right? I wouldn't see Kevin Durant and LeBron James on the same team and just automatically think like no matter what, nobody could ever beat them. That's not the thought process I would have. Hell, if the Warriors kept their big three after Kevin Durant leaves, if they keep Draymond, Steph, and Clay, and then they just build the team back up to what it was in 2016, they're back in the championship. They're still in the championship talks then, right? So that's what I'm very curious about, because LA, if I was doing a ranking, LA would be my first spot. That's where I really think he's gonna go. And I do wonder if people are just gonna say, oh, you left the best team to go play with the best player. Like, I could see that being a thing. But in my personal opinion, like I said, that doesn't seem like an overwhelming team to me that just can never be beat like Golden State does. And then I'm also curious to see what the Warriors do to keep Kevin Durant, because obviously their goals are different. Kevin Durant might want to move on with his career and get out of there and go gain respect, but the Warriors want Kevin Durant to retire there, obviously, or at least play there until his prime is up. So for them, if that means losing Klay Thompson or getting rid of Draymond Green because they can't get along, they're gonna do whatever they have to keep Kevin Durant, right? I mean, within reason. But whatever happens, I think Draymond really cut deep. I don't know exactly what he said, but let's go ahead and go the route that it was about his contract, and he was saying nasty stuff like, we were winning before you, I was here before you, and all of that. Now Draymond Green is basically the NBA player voice for NBA Twitter. If he's saying stuff like like everyone else has been saying online, telling him he's soft and they didn't need you and all that, if now Draymond Green is the megaphone for that, he's actually credible. This is your teammate. This is the guy who recruited you. So if he's saying that, then yeah, that bridge is probably burned. And the fact that it was so bad that he had to be suspended and that KD was still salty in the press conference, I'm like, fam, it's just mid-November. I get the whole thing about competitive spirit and brothers fight all the time, but y'all had a dispute that bad this early in the season, and y'all got to coexist until June. Y'all got to play a massive amount of regular season games together still, and then the playoffs, and y'all are already at this level. And actually what I want to add here, because ironically enough, as I was recording this video, Draymond Green dropped the press conference that you saw at the beginning of this video. Not even press conference, it was a small interview of about 2 minutes. You can find it anywhere on Twitter, it's probably all over YouTube by now. I'll link it if it is. But basically what I wanted to say, since he talked about things I was kind of talking about in this video, Draymond Green did not sound sorry in that interview. The whole gist of that interview, if you don't decide to watch it, is that he said what he said, it has whatever effect it's going to have, he supports whoever makes whatever decision if they want to play there or they don't want to play there, but his focus is on this season and winning a championship. Almost like Kobe and Shaq. How, they didn't really care, Kobe didn't care if he was offending Shaq or whatever by telling him something, but at the end of the day the goal was to win and be a strong team, like they didn't have to be friends. That was the vibe that I got there from Green. And it's funny because in the Twitter thread that I got that video from, somebody posted the Kermit face when he looks up out of the car. He was like, this is Golden State fans watching Draymond Green not give a shit about the future. Cause yeah, that's exactly what he said summed up. Is that they're focused, they're not going to beat themselves, this is not going to break them up. So they're going to coexist and do what they got to do. But he's not begging anybody to stay. And that goes for Klay and KD. So it basically boils down to what I said. I think they're going to three-peat still this year. But what happens after that, and as far as him and KD being like fully repairable, I don't know. A working relationship is not the same as something where somebody might want to actually come back and keep playing. Anyways, I'm done. Come back to this video in what, 6-7 months when we're in free agency? Come back to this video and let's see if Kevin Durant is gone to the Lakers like I assume, or if he's still on the Warriors and one of the other stars is left. But even if by some, I'm not gonna say miracle, but even if for some reason Kevin Durant doesn't leave, I would feel confident putting my money on the idea that the whole 4 All-Star thing on Golden State, I think that's probably over.